This is good, Abuna. That's good. Thank you. Take. صلي لي please. صلي لي. حللني أبونا صلي لي. Okay, so let's do a quick recap. Here's the clicker. Yes. Let's do a quick recap for those who weren't here last night. Just a very 5-minute review of what we discussed last night. What did we say? We talked about what? We talked about apologetics. مش كده? And we said apologetics means defending the Christian faith. Perfect. And we answered, or we asked 3 questions, and we provided answer for 3 questions. What are the questions? How to do apologetics, that's number 3. Number 2, why do we need apologetics? And number 1, what is apologetics? What, why, and how? Very simple. So let's do a quick recap. What is apologetics? You said apologetics is defending the Christian faith. And can you give me one verse, 1 or 2 verses that we discussed? If you remember, jot your memory. Yes, first 1 Peter 3:15. Always be ready to give a what? Defense. Defense. Okay, for the reason, for the hope that's in you. Why do we need to do apologetics? We said there are 2 reasons why. Mark, you're awesome. Because God commands it in the scriptures. And number 2, because God commands it. And because the world needs it. Okay? And we discussed why the world needs apologetics. Because of the crisis that our society is currently going through. And we, as part of society, are also going through it without knowing. And let me just pause for a second here. What makes society, or I use the word society and culture interchangeably. What makes up society? Us, and a lot of other things. But when society is moving, or our culture is moving in one direction, we are also moving the same direction, because we and society cannot be separated. We, together, we make up society, and society is comprised of us. But what we need to do as Christians is to step back and see where this culture, where this society and culture, or the trends and the patterns of this society and culture. For example, do you think a fish would ever think within itself that it's being wet? No, because it's always in the water. When you take the fish outside the water, then it will think, wait a minute, I am actually now dry, not wet. You see? So as long as you are in the culture, you'll never know that you are in the culture. Do you get it? So you have to step back and see, where is the society going? Number 3, how to do apologetics. We said 4 things. First and foremost, how do you defend your faith? You must first, help me out. You must know your faith. You must know that which you're defending. Number 2, you must know the enemy you're defending against. Number 3, understand the audience. And we said that the audience is not the enemy. Fakrin? Okay, some of us think that the audience, or the person who is an unbeliever, they are the enemy. We need to crush them, and that's not the case, obviously. Okay, and then number 4, we said know your faith, know the enemy, understand the audience, and number 4, season the message. Okay, because we need to speak the truth in love. Very good. This is basically what we discussed last night. And then we said, oh, wonderful. Who helped me with this? Thank you. Very good. Much better. Forgive me if it's too loud. And then we said today, God willing, we will ask. No, it's okay, it's good. Okay. I don't want to trouble you. We will discuss today, throughout the day, I call it life's ultimate question. Is there a God? Is there a God? And can we intelligently and logically have a conversation about the existence of God? Now, before I begin, thank you so much. بس نعلي شوية تاني. Sorry, ممكن نعلي شوية تاني يا أبونا, please? Okay, thank you so much. I'm speaking so that you can hear. Very good. This is awesome. Thank you, Abuna. So, I want to ask you this question. Raise your hand, but think about it first. You are now, actually, this is a real question. One of my sons, I have two boys, 13 years old and a 9-year-old. My 13-year-old came to me and told me this. This is a true story. One of his friends in school asked him this question. He goes to school, public school, so he's with non-believers, atheists, Buddhists, Hindus, Muslims, a lot of different faiths. So one time he was asked this question, do you believe in God? He said, yes, I do. And then the follow-up question was, do you have any evidence that God exists? So I want to ask you that question. Think about it. Do you believe in God? Yes, of course, we all do believe in God. Do we have evidence that God exists? I'm not going to use the word prove. Remember we said prove versus evidence? Okay? Do we have evidence that points to the existence of God? Raise your hand and tell me some evidence. I'm going to wait until you guys speak. This is not a lecture. I want a discussion. I want you to speak. Yes, sir. There you go. The universe. Yes. Oh, sorry, معلش. هنجيب الميكروفون. علي صوتك. Appearance of the saints, okay. The appearance of Saint Mary in Zaytun, for example. Yes. I love what you're saying. Yes. Very good. Everything was created so what? Precise. And Marco, the nature, the universe. What else? One more. The Shroud of Turin. Okay. ماشي. But I'll tell you something. Okay, the Shroud of Turin. Good. What else? I was going to say, do you guys know the difference between objective versus subjective? You know the difference between these two? So when I say, I believe in God because I just feel His presence, this is subjective. That has to do with me. But I believe in God because of the fine-tuned universe, as you said, that's objective. This has nothing to do with me. It has to do with something outside of me. So let's think of objective things, not subjective, not personal things, but things outside of who we are. They have more credible weight. Yes, sir.
This is a good question. Is there a God? But I'm thinking the other way. Is there is evidence that God does not exist?
Very good. We will cover that. Yes, that's a good question to confront. Yes, but I think it's wise to have an answer first, and then be within myself convicted with that truth, and then you begin back the dialogue and the conversation. But I would not begin a conversation or a dialogue when I am standing on, not solid ground, on shaky ground. But yes, very good. I like the philosophical way you think. Yes, what, anything else? طيب, yes. Say that again? Recorded history. Now you're appealing to something outside of you. Perfect. History. Excellent. One last one. All the miracles that happened. Very good. So, atheists believe, and pay attention to what I'm saying. Atheists believe, even though they don't like to use the word believe, but they do believe that God doesn't exist. You know what atheists mean? Atheist, no God. Alpha in Greek means lack of or opposite of. Theos in Greek means God. So atheos or atheist means no God. Okay? And theist believe what? That there is a God. Agnostic. You know who agnostics are? What agnostic means? When you say, I'm an agnostic. La. Bardo. It's a complex word. There's the A and the Gnostic. Gnostic means what? Gnosis means what? We use the same word in Greek, we use it in English. Gnosis. Kno. We don't pronounce the K. But gnosis means to know. Gnosis means I don't know. In Arabic it's called al-ghanusiyya, bil-ghin. Sounds like you're throwing up. Ghanusiyya means there's secret knowledge. Agnostic means I don't know. So agnostic says, I don't know if God exists. Nobody knows. And then lastly, skeptics. You know what skeptics mean? I'm a skeptic. The reason why I'm sharing these terms with you guys, because you will be introduced to them eventually in your school life. At least we are in California. You're as liberal as we are, I think. So skeptics means what? I'm skeptical. I what, Theo? Doubt. I doubt that God exists. So, the atheist says God doesn't exist. The theist says God does exist. The agnostic says, I don't know if God exists. The skeptic says, I doubt that God exists. Who's right? Let's find out. Okay. Let's examine the evidence. Oh, actually, I need to hide it. Okay, so there are 7 questions. We're probably going to cover the first 3 or 4 this weekend. Remember, we're building, and I want to have some kind of methodical thinking behind our retreat. So we established the foundation last night, what is defending the faith and why and how and all that. Today, hopefully after this, after we finish today, we would have established the arguments for the existence of God. Then there remains another question. Which God? The God of Islam, the God of Buddhism, the God of Hinduism, or the God of Christians? Tomorrow, we're going to have the other question answered, or that last question answered. Why am I a Christian, not something else? Or what is so unique and distinct about Christianity or Christ? So we're making our kind of arguments as we go day by day. Meshi? So now we're just looking at the first three questions, but we could just read them together. Where did the universe come from? Where did human life come from? Is there a designer behind the design? Who determines right and wrong? What is the purpose and meaning of life? Where do I go when I die? And finally, why is there so much evil in this world? These are 7 questions that point to the existence of God amongst many other questions. Hopefully another time, maybe next year, next year or next couple of years, whenever, we can talk about also the incoherence of all of these. Incoherence of atheism, incoherence of agnosticism, and incoherence of skepticism. Do you know what I mean by incoherence? How it's illogical. We're not using the Bible to say atheists are wrong, right? Because they don't believe in the Bible. We're using what? Logic. That's it. So how can I, with the use of logic, determine that these are to be refuted or debunked or proven false? Okay? That's hopefully, we can do this if time allows. So number 1, first question, where did the universe come from? Now, I'll tell you, I've had so many conversations with atheists. I do every now and then. I go on college campuses, and I talk to, of course, I don't expect everyone on a given college campus would be a believer in God. Of course, not Coptic Orthodox, and, doesn't believe in God. Many atheists would come and attend. And I always ask that very important, basic question. Where did the universe come from? And you get very interesting responses. Who is the most famous atheist we discussed last night from Oxford University in England? Most famous atheist. Yes? Say his name out loud. What's his first name? Richard Dawkins. Any of you heard of Richard Dawkins? Okay. Most famous atheist. He was asked this question. You can look it up on YouTube. And he struggled with an answer. Well, we don't know yet, but and when he was pressed to give an answer to this question, how did it all begin? Don't tell me Big Bang. What caused the Big Bang? Where did it all begin? The origin of everything. Finally, he said, I have a theory. I think aliens came and started this universe. This is on YouTube. I'm not making that up. Okay, look up. You can look up. No, not now. You can look up Richard Dawkins, aliens, and you're going to see a couple of videos. Al-Muhim, where did the universe come from? No one that is not a believer in God can give me a good, solid answer for this question. Now, I don't want to give you the technical, I'll give you the technical terms. We believe, theists or believers in God, believe in something called the cosmological argument. Argument here is not to argue, but the cosmological case. Cosmological comes from the word cosmos, means the world. Okay, cosmos means the world. How did the world begin? It's also known as the argument from cause and effect. Do you guys know what cause and effect is? Okay, something caused something to exist becomes the effect. It's cause and effect. Here's what it says. Whatever begins to exist has a cause. True or false? Whatever begins to exist must have a cause for its existence. Okay, that's logically feasible. The universe began to exist. Well, some people can argue the universe is eternal. The universe began to exist. That's another premise for this argument. The conclusion of this argument is that, therefore, the universe has a cause. The question then becomes, what or who? I'm not assuming it's a who. Could be what. What caused the universe? Okay. There are 4 possible explanations for the cause of the universe. Let's look at each one of them. I'm trying to be simple in the way I present this argument for you, so that I'm not, so I wouldn't lose you. But if you want me to repeat anything, please raise your hand. What are the 4 possible explanations? The universe came from nothing. Or the universe is self-made. Created itself. These are theories. I didn't come up with these. These are actually people that came up with these theories. The universe has always existed. This is the most commonly used one. Up until the 19th century, many atheists from the 17th to the 19th century believed that the universe is eternal. You can name, if you want to study, if you've heard people like Bertrand Russell, Friedrich Nietzsche, all of these people believed that the universe has always existed, eternal. Lastly, the universe is created. That's the 5th option. Some people from Eastern mystics, like Buddhists, believe that the universe is an illusion. Are you any illusion? But if the universe is an illusion, then they are also illusion. Then we are illusion. We don't exist. They don't exist. The question doesn't matter anymore. Okay. So these are 4 possible options for or explanations for the cause of the universe. Can we look at each one of them for a few minutes? ونشوف by process of elimination which one makes most sense. معايا? Are you with me? Let's look at the first one. The universe came from nothing. Recently, there was a scholar, he calls himself a scholar, I should say a scientist by the name of Lawrence Krauss. Any of you heard of that name? He's from Arizona State. He's actually becoming very famous. He's best friends with Richard Dawkins. And Lawrence Krauss wrote a book called The Universe from Nothing. He says, Dr. Krauss, look at his credentials. He's a theoretical physicist and professor at Arizona State. He's a quantum mechanics professor. I have no idea what that means. Al-Muhim, Dr. Krauss says that the universe came from nothing, not from God. Here's what he said. One of the things about quantum mechanics is not only can nothing become something, nothing always becomes something, says Dr. Krauss. Nothing is unstable. Nothing will always produce something in quantum mechanics. And he wrote this book. Atheists were so glad to see finally an answer to the question, where did the universe come from? It came from nothing. I now feel comfortable with my atheism because now I have the answer for this question. It turns out that Dr. Krauss, his definition of nothing is not the nothing that we know. His definition of nothing is actually something. So let me explain. He actually later admitted, last bullet, later admitted that this nothing is actually something. Here's someone who is also a professor of quantum mechanics. His name is David Albert. He wrote an article in New York Times, and I'm not going to spare you what he said in white, but down here he says, all there is to say about this, what Dr. Krauss said, as far as I can see, is that Krauss is dead wrong. And his religious and philosophical critics are absolutely right. What Dr. Krauss was trying to do is to come up with an explanation for the origin of the universe, that it came from nothing. But just think with me, logically speaking, can something come out of nothing? We said this last night at midnight, if those of you who are with us. فاكرة؟ قلنا إيه؟ Simply speaking كده هو, nothing means what? No thing. Think of the word. Nothing means no thing. How can a thing come from a no thing? I'm just using logic. I'm not using anything other than just think with me. How can something come from? Nothing comes from nothing. It's a law of logic. It's actually one of the most foundational laws. Any of you saw The Sound of Music? Any old enough to watch this movie? Any of you, one second, any of you know Julie Andrews? What did she say in the movie? Nothing comes from nothing. Nothing. Very good. I like the movie too. So nothing comes from nothing. How can something come from nothing? Yes?
Yeah, but if we say that, then they'll ask us, like, if you can't have something come from nothing, then
Where did God come from? I know this question is going to come up. We're going to address that. Yes. Okay, so nothing comes from nothing. So something must have existed to cause everything else to exist. طيب. Here is what, I'm going to give you some excerpts, some quotes or quotations from subject matter experts. I'm not a scientist. I will share with you what scientists who've spent 30, 40 plus years in their lives studying cosmology and the origin of the universe. All of the ones I'm going to share with you have all been atheists. I can be unbiased. They're not believers. They're all atheists, and you can look them up. Robert Jastrow. This guy, he's an agnostic astronomer, physicist, cosmologist, not cosmetologist, cosmologist, and a leading NASA scientist. He wrote in his book, In God and the Astronomers, he said, the creation of matter out of nothing would violate the principle of the conservation of matter and energy, which states that matter and energy can neither be created nor destroyed. Matter can be converted into energy and vice versa. But the total amount of all matter and energy in the universe must remain unchanged forever. It is difficult to accept a theory that violates such a firmly established scientific fact. And this guy's an atheist. But he says nothing can come from nothing, basically, is the summary of what he is saying. Alan Sandage, also one of the most influential astronomers of the 20th century, another atheist. He said, the world is too complicated in all of its parts to be due to chance alone. I am convinced that the existence of life, with all its order in each of its organisms, is simply too well put together. The more one learns of biochemistry, the more unbelievable it becomes, unless there's some kind of an organizing architect. His science, because he's a genuine, honest scientist, he realized that his research and science is leading him towards organizing architect, towards God. As I told you, nothing comes from nothing. In the beginning, there was nothing, and then it exploded. Does it make sense? Just logically speaking. Of course it doesn't. طيب. Any of you know Stephen Colbert? I'm looking at you because you said you know this. Anybody know Stephen Colbert? Okay, nobody? Okay, he was the host in one of his shows. He had actually Dr. Lawrence Krauss. I would love to show you this. It's a video. It's a 5-minute video. He hosted Lawrence Krauss. Stephen Colbert is a Catholic believer in God. Lawrence Krauss, as I just mentioned to you, is an atheist. He wrote this book, Universe from Nothing. Very interesting and funny and comical exchange between these two. Maybe if time allows during the break, I can show it to you. Number 2 option is, does it come from nothing? No, doesn't make sense. Is the universe, this is very easy to refute. Did the universe create itself? Yes or no? Or you have to tell me why not. This is very easy to think. All it takes is just for you to think. Yes, Mark. Very good. I didn't think of that, but that's good. If it created itself, it must have had life. Okay, think with me. For the universe to create itself, first of all, it's a logical impossibility. It's just illogical. Why is that? For something to create itself, it must first be or exist. In other words, it must exist prior to itself. In other words, the universe must have existed and not existed at the same time. Because for it to create itself, it must have existed prior to itself for it to create itself. Did I lose you? You see? So in other words, the universe must have existed and not existed in the same time and in the same sense, which is a logical impossibility. Yes, sir.
So is that kind of the same argument as which came first, the chicken or the egg? Is it the same mentality of a question then? That which came first, the chicken or the egg? So, did the universe come first or did it create itself? Is that the same kind of mentality?
Yeah, but here we're talking about something that it is not just a hypothetical chicken-egg question. It's that I see something that I know was caused by something else. I cannot assume that this something is self-caused. I don't want to go to the chicken and egg argument. Faham qasdi? So I cannot logically comprehend that this cup created itself. Chicken and egg is a little abstract, but this is something I can actually see and touch. All right. If the universe created itself, it would have had to exist, as I mentioned to you, or not exist. So this is easy, and it doesn't make sense. But some people say the universe created itself. Here is what Francis Collins said about the universe creating itself. He said, the Big Bang cries out for a divine explanation. It forces us to the conclusion that nature had a definite beginning. I cannot see how nature could have created itself. Only a supernatural force that is outside of space and time could have done that. This is Francis Collins before he becomes a believer. The number 3 option, is it eternal? This is the most commonly used answer. Who created the universe? It's always been there. It's eternal. Actually, eternal is not the good precise definition, because eternal implies no beginning and no end. Although I think in Arabic there is a word for beginningless and endless. Azali وسرمدي. أزلي وأبدي والاثنين يبقوا سرمدي. مش كده؟ So the universe has no beginning. True or false? Science, with conclusive research and published research and publications and all that, had proved scientifically that the universe had a beginning in time. And I have 20 journals and references to that effect. And this is what one of these philosophers, Immanuel Kant, his assertion was that the universe is eternal. Here is what Stanley Eddington said. He's a British astronomer, astrophysicist, is also an atheist. He said, if the universe is running down, and if the universe is running down, and if it is running down, there must have been a time when it was fully wound up. Somewhere between the beginning of time and the present day, we must place the winding up of the universe. When did that occur, and who or what wound up the universe? Stephen Hawking, who just died last month, said the conclusion. This is a lecture that he gave on his 70th birthday in England, and he was talking to all atheists and unbelievers, and he said these, and I'm quoting him. He said, the conclusion of this lecture is that the universe had not existed forever. Rather, the universe and time itself had a beginning in the Big Bang. A point of creation would be a place where science broke down. One would have to appeal to religion and the hand of God. Now this is Stephen Hawking, who's a devout atheist, said the universe must have had a beginning in time. Time had a beginning itself. Alexander Velikan also said, all the evidence we have says that the universe had a beginning, and I can give you more and more and more excerpts, but I just, for the sake of time. All of these people I mentioned to you are all atheists, non-believers. Second law of thermodynamics. I have no idea what that means. Yes, sir. It has a beginning. Oh, gotcha. Yes, so whatever is changing must have a beginning. So therefore it implies that it had a beginning. Perfect. Also, I put this here because I'm not going to even claim that I know anything about this picture, but I know that the second law of thermodynamics says that the universe had a beginning. Why is that? Because eventually the universe will reach a state of what? Anyone knows? Science? Equilibrium? Entropy? Have you heard of entropy? Where the universe will become desolate. We have the scientist here who's being quiet out of his humbleness. The universe will become desolate and inhospitable to human life, eventually. So if it's eternal, if it had no beginning, then it would have reached that desolate, entropic state at this point. You see? So, let's forget this. Okay. Conclusion. If the universe did not come from nothing, if it is not self-caused or self-created, if it is not eternal, then by process of elimination, the universe must have been created or caused into existence. Are you with me now? Are you following the logic? Okay. Now, it turns out that since all the evidence shows that the universe had a beginning, the theists, the believers, us, are the ones following the evidence where it leads. The atheists simply have blind faith that some other explanation will be found in the future. So who's actually following the evidence where it leads? The theists who believe that God exists. This is another picture that explains exactly what we said in just one slide. Here's another interesting picture that says, hey brother, do you think there's life after birth? Do you believe in mom? His brother says, nah, I don't believe these things. I'm an atheist. I mean, have you ever seen mom? Which is an interesting picture that if there was no mom, you would be here. Same thing, if there was no God, the universe, including us, wouldn't be here, even though we cannot see him with our naked eye. Second question. Yes?
This Big Bang, there must have been something like a religion, a God. And
Yes.
then until his last moment before he died, he was just insisting that he's an atheist.
Yes.
Yani how they don't get shaken by these, things.
Very good question. However, I'll just give you two quick answers. There were some speculations, I'm not sure how true that is, some speculations that towards, on his deathbed or towards his last moments, he believed in God. I mean, I don't know. There's some articles I read. Of course, people want to believe that. But so I don't know what happened in his last moments. So let's put that aside. But generally speaking, all these atheists who cannot deny the existence of God, why did they remain atheists? There are reasons why they remained atheists other than intellectual reasons. I have part of the discussions also, maybe third lecture is, I think this is one of the questions I have in the book. Here. This actually will give you a good comprehensive answer that says, page 23, despite the evidence, why do people continue to reject God? So it must be for reasons other than intellectual reasons. Okay, second question, where did I come from? احنا خلصنا أول question. أبونا لغاية إمتى؟ 115 120 لا 120 كفاية. Okay. ماشي. طيب, we finished the first question. Where did the universe come from? Second question, where did we come from? Where did I come from? Did I just happen, or am I designed? Am I an accident of nature, or am I wanted? Where did you and I come from? The another question is, where did life come from? Here is what Richard Dawkins says. You and I came from a happy chemical accident. I'm quoting him. Make sure it's happy. Happy chemical accident. And let's look at Andy Knowlson, Harvard biologist. He said, we don't know how life started on this planet. We don't know exactly when it started. We don't know under what circumstances. Don't ask that question. We don't know. It just happened. واحد بيقول happy chemical accident. واحد بيقول we don't know and we just are here. We just exist. That's the same. If Bertrand Russell also said the same thing. طيب. I don't have the video actually on the... We can watch the video later. Here is what Sir Fred Hoyle said. He said, biochemical systems are exceedingly complex, so much so that the chance of being formed through random shuffling is insensibly different from zero. There must be an intelligence who designed the biochemicals and gave rise to the origin of life. This guy's an atheist, but a scientist. He said there must be an intelligence which designed the biochemicals and gave rise to the origin of life. Another person another very famous, this is one of the most famous atheists, بعد Richard Dawkins. He died recently. His name is Anthony Flew. He had millions of followers. This Anthony Flew guy, he lived all his life as an atheist, and he wrote a book. And this book was titled, There Is No God. Towards the end of his life, because of all of his genuine scientific research, he wrote another book. And guess what? He kept the exact same cover page, but he crossed no and put A at the end. You know what he said, Anthony Flew? It is simply inconceivable that any material matrix or field can generate agents who think and act. A force field does not plan or think. So the world of living, conscious, thinking beings has to originate in a living source, a mind. I capitalized the S and the M, but he didn't. Okay? Originate in a living source, a mind. He said basically there must have been a mind behind life. Okay, so let's just skip some of these. There is a law of science called the law of biogenesis. It's a scientific law. اللي عمله واحد اسمه لوي باستور اللي عمل pasteurization of milk. مش اسمها كده برضو. Okay. Louis Pasteur قال ايه? Living things come only from other living things. In other words, life can only come from life. There's no way you can have life from non-life. يعني ايه? This cup cannot produce life because it doesn't have life-giving properties. Not just life. It can be living. I cannot produce life. Okay? Only a life-giving person, thing, whatever, well in this case it's going to be person, can give life to something else. God is the giver of life. I'm going to share this with you. I don't want to use the scriptures at this point. علشان when I talk about the existence of God, assuming that we're having this discussion with someone who doesn't believe in God, but because we're here at church, I want to share with you what the scriptures say about God as the giver of life. John 5:26, He has the life in Himself. Tomorrow, in the readings of Pauline and Catholic Epistle, pay attention to the readings. You'll see how both of them say that God is the giver of life. John 11:25, I'm the resurrection and the life. John 14:6, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. So on and so forth. Christ is our life, life-giving spirit, and so on. That we have objections. ده حلو خالص. This is all happy and dandy وكويس, بس يعني the conversation is not gonna end with no objections. I have an objection. You say God created everything. Who then created God? This is the question that you're all. I was asked this question about 7 times last night. I'm going to استنوا لغاية بكرة. Wait until tomorrow. Now the time comes. Can I get all your brain cells functioning with me now? Can you wake up? Can you wake up? All right. ماشي. Who created God? I think you give a little bit of an answer to the question, Marco. Let's see. Interesting question. I have it also in the book, Created God. First and foremost, again, let's look at the logic behind the answer to this question. Only things that have or had a beginning are created or caused. Do you agree with this premise? Only things that had a what? Beginning are caused. Okay? Only things that are caused are made. Makes sense. God, by definition, had no beginning. Therefore, he does not need to be caused. Therefore, he does not need to be made. I will explain. You're going to raise your hand. Well, how do I know God by definition has no beginning? I'll explain. But this is just basically a primer for the argument that I'm about to give you. When we say who made God, I am implying that God is subject to, what's the word that we mentioned last night with the line and the dot? فاكرين? Time. When we say who made God, I am implying that God is subject to the dimension of time. Because we live in space and time. Can you be here now and next week in the same time? No. Can you be here in St. Mary's Church and in Australia at the same time? No. We're subject by what? Space and time. We live in space and time continuum. God is beyond this dimension of space and dimension of time. Remember when we said we live in a timeline of past, present, future? God does not exist in a timeline. He exists in a time dot where past, present, future converge into one single dot. فاهمين قصدي? So God is beyond time. Because he's beyond time, he's beginningless. Because he's beginningless, he is uncaused. Because he's uncaused, he's uncreated. Did you get it? A little bit? Okay. One more time. Summary. Okay. God is beyond time. Time is not co-eternal with God, or else time would be God. So God created the universe in time. Okay? It's difficult to comprehend because we always live by what time is it? Oh, what happened last week? What's going to happen tomorrow? We live in this realm of time. God doesn't. God doesn't have, oh, let's see what's going to happen tomorrow. He doesn't operate this way. He is beyond this universe and this dimension of space and time. So because God is beyond space and time, it's an if-then. If you know Excel and you type an if-then statement, that's an if-then. If God is beyond time, then he is beginningless. If he is beginningless, he is uncaused. If he is uncaused, he's unmade or uncreated. Okay? Why is that? When I say cause and effect, I can only use this law. It's called the law of causality. This law of cause and effect can only be effective or can only be real within time. If there's no time, there's no cause and effect. See? So God cannot be the effect of any superior cause. Let me share with you something else. This is what Socrates said about this being. He called him or it the unmoved mover. There must have been an unmoved mover that gave rise to everything else. طيب. As I mentioned, without time, there's no cause and effect. And this being created time. That's why he is timeless or eternal. And if you're timeless or eternal, do you have a beginning? No. Let me just finish this whole section and then I'll open it for answers, just so that we can follow the train of thought. if you want to define God, we can say God, although this could be a heresy to define God, but if we want to maybe describe God from what he revealed of himself to us, to be theologically accurate, God is uncaused because he's the being whose existence is his existence. The cause or the reason for his existence is his existence. Okay, let's not confuse you more. I want to share with you something that will illustrate my point. Everything that exists in this world can be categorized in two categories: matter or mind. Can someone come up with a third category? It doesn't exist. كل حاجة في الدنيا دي, everything in this world can be either matter or mind. جماد, matter, like this, or intelligence, reason, rationale, mind. Okay? Either physical or مش none, metaphysical. Either natural or supernatural. Either material or immaterial. Only two categories. Everything in this world that exists can be bucketed into these two buckets. طيب. Let's look at it واحدة. We said everything that exists can be classified as either matter or mind. Now, therefore, because we now exist, either matter or mind has always existed. فاهمين قصدي? Or else we wouldn't exist. There must have been an eternal matter or mind. Ya matter, ya mind. One of them has always existed for us to exist now. That we know, we just concluded that one of them is not eternal. Science concluded that matter is not eternal. The universe had a what? Beginning. خلاص, it's solved for us. Therefore, mind is eternal. Do you get it? What is that mind? Who is that mind that's eternal? God. More specifically, St. John, in his gospel, in the first verse, he gave a perfect description of this mind, and he called him, who said Logos? Mina. Or, yes, what's your name? Rasha? Perfect. Logos. What does Logos mean? Very poorly translated in English and Arabic as word or kalima. But if you study Greek mythology, this could be another homework for you guys, like the homework with امبارح, another homework. If you study Greek mythology, you know that logos, the word logos that St. John used, it doesn't just simply mean word, like utterance of word. It means mind. It also means light, truth, fire, all of these things. When St. John wanted to describe the Lord Jesus Christ, he couldn't come up with a word that will encompass all of these attributes, so he used the word logos, that the Greeks in Greek mythology would use this word to describe the ultimate quintessential being. Okay? So it's not just word, it's mind, it's rationale, it's reason, it's fire, it's light, it's truth. All of these converge together in the word logos. So this is what is, or this is who is eternal, who gave rise to everything else. Yes, Mina. Please. Hold on. Yes.
So you're saying everything could be categorized into either matter or mind. And if we're trying to categorize eternity, then obviously it has to fit in one of those two.
No. I'm not categorizing eternal.
Okay.
I'm saying either one of these two, واحدة منهم, must have existed forever. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, that was
Yeah. That was the confusing point. One of them must have existed. Why? Because there must have been a first cause that gave rise to everything else. There must have been an engine. عشان القطر يمشي, there must be a first engine cart for it to pull everything else. Somebody raised your hand? Yes, sir.
How is it concluded that matter is not eternal?
We just احنا قلنا فين احنا قلناها. شوف بنرجع كل دوا. اقرا الناس دي بقى اهو. Is it eternal؟ مش احنا قرينا كل الحاجات دي؟ شفت بقى؟ كنت فين؟ All right. So let's move on, and there's more to say that I want to about the existence on who created God. I want to also tell you that we could say فين احنا رحنا matter and mind وقفنا لغاية هنا. Okay, think with me. The universe. Yes, go ahead.
Also, how can you give evidence to atheists that time and space doesn't apply to God and that He created them?
Very good. Tell the atheist to understand and study the law of causality. How do I talk to an atheist about the fact that God is beyond space and time and He's not subject to space and time? It's the law of causality will explain that, but I don't want to get too much into it because it's a little philosophical and abstract. But if this person is a genuine seeker, Mahabus, you raised a good question. Yani maybe we can finish with that. If someone is asking you a question about the existence of God, then you must be, Mark and everybody else, you must be wise in understanding the person and the question. First of all, if they're asking the question just to argue, and I mentioned that last night, they want to argue. They just want to, hey, I don't want to hear any truth from you, I just want to argue with you. Then you should be wise to know that this is just not going to go anywhere. It's an argument. He wants to kind of, whatever. So you can just say, this is what I believe in, and retreat. Don't continue in the argument. Just pray for them, that God may open his eyes to the light. That's all you need to do. But if someone is sincerely asking because they want to know, and genuinely asking, then you can spend all the time you want with them. But as I told you last night, remember that when you're speaking about God to someone who doesn't believe in God, who is actually doing the speaking? God. Only if you ask him to help you speak. Remember that. Because every time you speak to someone who's a non-believer, you are always tempted, and this is a rule of thumb for all of us, even if we do, especially if we do evangelism, not so much apologetic, evangelism. We're tempted to want to appear to be right all the time and win whatever argument we're engaged in. I want to prove you wrong. I'm right and you're wrong. We're tempted with that. We're tempted to personalize things, but we shouldn't be. We should always pray and be a conduit. God, like I said last night, God, you died for him, I didn't. You purchased him with your blood, I didn't. Use me to reach him to you, so that you are only connecting two hands, the hand of God and the hand of this unbeliever, ma'bad. And then you get out of it and you say, God, here you go, introduce yourselves. So having this mindset will help you more and more in spreading and reflecting the light of God in you. Mashi? So whenever you have a question, oh, what do I do with my atheist friend that says this and this? Remember that. Okay. Yes, sir. Okay, tfaddali.
I'm a little bit confused why you're trying to say that it has to be mind or matter. That's like the eternity of everything. Because for us to categorize God into mind is to limit God, because God is not mind. He doesn't think, he is. So I think that our trying to simplify that God thinks is trying to simplify God into terms that we can understand. But to say, I think that trying to put God into the idea of mind is trying to simplify him. And so I think that's almost like fallacy or heresy to say that God is mind.
Okay, I did not say God is mind.
Then what are you trying to say?
I'm saying God has a mind, whereas matter does not have a mind. And I'll prove it to you. Okay, I'm not limiting God in one category because God is limitless. And I cannot, just as I said earlier, I cannot define who God is, because then I would be doing heresy. What I can do, I can describe what God is like based on what he revealed to me through divine revelation. God has a mind. I'm not saying that. The scriptures say that. He has a mind. He has a reason. Part of we're created in the image of God. Part of that image is that we also have a mind, Like God, just like God has a mind. I'm not saying God is a mind. I'm saying God has a mind. Let me prove it to you. For the world to be created, it had to be created by someone who has a mind. You know why? Because they had to have the will to create. This cup, again, I'm just using this cup as an example, cannot will anything into existence because it doesn't have a mind to will, because it's not a person with a mind and a will. But God had to will, عارفين يريد إرادة. He had to will for the world to exist. That will can only take place if he has intelligence and mind. But I'm not saying he is that intelligence, he is that mind. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying he has a mind, he has intelligence, and he has a will and a will to create out of nothing. Does that make sense a little? A little? I want to make sure that I'm choosing my words carefully so that I wouldn't confuse you. Abuna, if you want to add anything. Oh, okay. No, and please, Abuna, please, if you want to add anything or correct anything I'm saying wrong, please.
Where is the microphone?
الميكروفون أهو يبا. So yes, طب آخر question, and then we will move on to break time. Yes, sir.
For that question is asking about if God exists and he is a mind, and if atheists knew about this, so you answer that they have to go for another causality to prove it.
Right.
So do they know this, or do they understand that if they go this way, they are going to come to the same conclusion?
I don't know. I'll tell you some of the many atheists I've spoken with, if they're the sincere, educated seekers, they begin to doubt their faith. Although they may not show this to you because they want to save their dignity, okay. But deep down, they will begin to think or rethink their atheism, and this is what we need to do.
What I mean, for sure they know the methodology, the same like you're stating now.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't say for sure they know. Why do you say that?
Because the conversation subjected them to know that there is a causality and there is a matter and there is a mind and all these sequences.
So you're assuming that we had a conversation and then they came to that conclusion.
Yes.
Yes. And then?
So why they still...
That's the same question Russia asked. Russia, مش كده? Yeah, same question she asked. Why do they continue in their atheism? أنت مش قاعد معنا النهارده؟ خلاص. Wait until a couple of hours, we'll get to that question. And just I can briefly, عشان خاطر البريك, I think I have it right here. Oh, creation from nothing implies that creation was willed. This is a very important key. Willed into existence, the will to create. الإرادة في الخلق لازم تكون موجودة من واحد عنده إرادة، والإرادة دي ما تجيش غير لو واحد عنده intelligence and mind. بس كده. عشان كده عمركم هتسمعوا واحد بودست يقول إن شاء الله. Never. You know why? Inshallah means what? God willing. Because Buddhism does not believe in a personal God with a mind. They believe in a state of being called, what's their God called in Buddhism? A condition called what? Or a higher state called what? لا. Huh? Starts with an N. Nirvana. Nirvana ده مش God. It's the state of extinction or the absorption of self. ما فيش person. Because ما فيش person, ما فيش mind. عشان ما فيش mind, ما فيش will. فعشان كده مش هتسمعوهم يقولوا God willing. This is just a little fun fact. All right. Okay, where is a good breaking point? Or not breaking point, a point to... Okay, طب خلينا نقف لغاية هنا ونرجع تاني. Any pressing questions? ولا should we take a break now and then reconvene? There's more to come. I would love to see you back again in half an hour.
We're going to take a half an hour break, and then we'll come back at
We're supposed to start 1:45, so it's a little less than, so maybe 1:50.
1:50 is good.
Let's be back here in the church. And also, I'll remind you that if you have questions that you would like to submit privately, you have the link. The Google form is still available, or you can ask questions via the microphone. So, 2 options to ask questions. I'm looking at the questions that are coming in. So hopefully everyone has the link. Who has the access to the link? It's on the webpage of the church. If you scroll down, you'll see the flyer for this weekend. You can click there, and I think it's been put into many of the groups. So, thank you.